Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. Within the last few days or so, I had a video about price. There's an analyst who is on the screen right now, none other than at Magic Poop Cannon, who I can't say that without giggling like a 5-year-old. He had an analysis stating that XRP by September of 2020 could reach $220 each, and so he gave his rationale for that as a chart analyst. And I think it's a fun topic, so I'm always happy to cover this stuff, especially when people are willing to put their necks on the line and actually make a price prediction with a timestamp, because I don't have the guts to do that, because I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to price predictions. I know all sorts of stuff about Ripple and XRP, but when it comes to chart analysis, this and that, that's just not something that I have any sort of real experience with. So given that I won't do it, and I think it's a fun topic, always happy to cover it when other people are willing to put their own thoughts out there. He got, not surprisingly, a lot of feedback on that. Now, given that via recent polling, we know that most of the XRP community thinks that XRP will hit at least $100 at some point. Most people think it will be at least that. And I covered that survey actually in a recent video as well. Given that's the case, there is still some, not surprisingly, that thought, okay, this might sound a little bit more outlandish, a little bit more out there, and I'm not saying that I buy into it hitting $220 by September of next year. I'd be a bit skeptical of that, frankly. But I don't think there's well, first of all, from a technical perspective, there is no upper limit, only in the sense that, just be clear on what I mean by that, there's the XRP is only worth what people decide it's worth in open markets. That's all I mean by that. From a technical perspective, there's no limit to the price of anything on the planet. Literally, so I mean that literally from a technical perspective. I also think that cryptocurrencies, there will be some winners, and those winners, I believe, long-term will be valued in the trillions. So when I see big numbers like that, although when you say, okay, you put a timestamp on it that's 1 year out, I start to get a little like, not sure if it's going to happen that quickly. But I also, I can think big picture, and I understand that in a world where cryptocurrencies are globally adopted for a number of reasons, having multi-trillion-dollar market caps with individual coins makes a ton of sense. And I don't think XRP will be the only one that ends up hitting that. And so, anyway, in response to all of this, the Magic Poop Cannon went ahead and put out some additional thoughts, and he wrote up what he titled a grounded near-term look at XRP plus comments on market cap. And given the amount of attention that his comments have gotten and the reaction in the video that I posted on it, I wanted to share this as a follow-up. I think it's fascinating. I appreciate the perspective on this. And when I covered this video from this guy, prior to that day, I had not heard of him before, but he actually does have quite a following. I just want to point out, I think it's worth noting when a guy has this type of name making these types of predictions, let me just say, okay, a lot of people seem to probably, think that he kind of knows what he's talking about, right? So at least for some stuff. Otherwise, I don't know why he's got almost 30,000 followers on Twitter, so he's got quite a following. That doesn't just happen by accident. So anyway, I'm looking forward to sharing that with you. And I'm also going to cover with you, there are a couple other sites I pulled up. I'm just going to speak briefly regarding near-term price analysis. It's not going to be the focus of this video, but there are a couple things I just wanted to cite real quick. I also want to cover a piece from an article today about another 100 million XRP was moved today. I just reported yesterday on what was the video? It was like $126 million worth of it. Well, this is different. This is a separate report, and it's 100 million XRP. And so lots of stuff moving around there. And people always like to talk about that in the context of how Bitcoin's moving, of course, right? And then I'll close out the video by talking about how, I think it was the Circle CEO who stated that he has a belief that China is softening its stance on Bitcoin. So I'll close out the video with that piece. But before we get going here, if you would please delicately tap that like button, but do not smash it. If you smash it and you hit it too hard and you break that thing, you are liable for the repair expenses. I'm sorry, I know that's tough love, but that is the policy on the Moon Lambo channel, so just be conscious of that. And if you're a fan of Ripple and XRP, go ahead and subscribe. It's the right thing to do. All right, so here's a tweet from at Magic Poop Cannon, because I'm a 5-year-old, that's why I'm giggling. A more grounded near-term look at XRP plus comments on market cap. So let's open this up right here. I'm going to read through this. It's not that long, but I want to read through it, and I'm going to share with you my thoughts on this. Anyway, hi friends. Welcome to this update analysis on XRP. As you all know, everyone had mixed emotions about my last XRP analysis, which illustrated how there is a technical path for price to rise north of $200 based on possible rally off the bottom of a massive uptrend channel, which could happen later this year. The majority of the comments that expressed objection cited the market cap and how the XRP market cap could never reach into the trillions, which would be needed to produce such a high market price. However, I think there is a fundamental misunderstanding out there regarding the very unique capability for XRP to reach highs that seem unattainable. And here's how it can work in a nutshell. And so I'm going to, before I read further, I just got to say I absolutely agree with him that it is possible for individual digital assets, in this case XRP, to hit trillion and multi-trillion dollar market caps. And I want you to understand here, because he doesn't cite it in this piece, but that has nothing to do with the net inflow of cash. So a lot of people think, well, no one's ever going to throw trillions of dollars into XRP. Well, no. That's not what market cap is. You don't have to throw that much money in there for it to be worth it, okay? Because price gets bumped up. Understand that when somebody's selling XRP, okay, it's fine, some people sell at a loss, but typically if you're selling XRP, you're selling it because you've made your profit. The next person will buy because they think it will go higher, and then one day they'll sell it, and so on and so forth. And so the net inflow of cash will never need to be into the trillions. Just want to be really clear on that. All right, now the piece continues. XRP is designed to revolutionize cross-border payments around the world by working as a vehicle that banks can utilize to move funds instantly and effortlessly to and from any place on Earth. Many people say that banks don't use XRP and that they don't need to use it, and that they will just create their own coin like JPM coin, so JP Morgan. But while they are valid arguments, those assessments are flawed. In fact, there are dozens of banks that are already using XRP, and there are hundreds that are looking at the potential of XRP and Ripple at this moment. I gotta say I don't believe that to be accurate. I do want to call that out. There hasn't been word from Ripple. Mind you, I am Mr. XRP Bull. Okay, there is no word from Ripple or a bunch of banks, dozens of banks as cited here. There's no official word that there are dozens of them using XRP. The latest number we know, which I am proud and happy to report because I think it's tremendous progress. The latest we got from a Ripple employee is that there are over 20 XRapid customers today. Over 20. Which, as you know, XRapid requires the use of XRP as a bridge currency. So, to me, that's amazing. But, dozens of banks using XRP, that is not the case. There is no evidence of that. Anyway, moving forward. The growth of Ripple as a company and the growth of their client base, financial institution, is absolutely undeniable. Okay, I agree with that. Anyone who does even a few minutes of research can discover those facts. The point is that if Ripple can continue to grow, which right now there is absolutely no reason to believe they won't, and their client base continues to expand, which it is, so too will the adoption of XRP, which is also happening. So that brings me to market cap. As banks adopt XRP as a vehicle to expedite their competitive nature regarding global cross-border transactions, the use of XRP will also rise. What you have to realize is that banks move hundreds of trillions in capital worldwide. Hundreds of trillions. So, for XRP to reach $220 with a roughly 43 billion coin supply, that would equal a market cap of approximately 9.5 trillion. So, if we go back to the hundreds of trillions of capital that banks move around the world, 9.5 trillion of mostly banks possessed funds is not as far-fetched as you may think. Okay, fair enough point, but I want to make a couple points here on this. Okay, so you do need a particular blend of price of XRP and liquidity in order to facilitate those transactions on that type of global scale, with liquidity being more important than price. And the reason that liquidity is more important is the example I like to cite, just for fun. This would never happen, but just to conceptually understand it. It doesn't matter if XRP is worth $1,000 per coin if nobody's if nobody's selling it, or nobody, if it's not available for on exchanges. That would mean there's no liquidity, and then XRapid doesn't work. There has to be a lot of XRP for sale at whatever price point it's at. So you need a proper blend of a price and liquidity. As for what the proper blend is, it depends on the It depends on the demand of the day. And we see that demand will be growing. There are currently only 20 entities utilizing XRapid. So very early days, but there will be more, and I believe anyway. And if Ripple keeps finding success, and that will change things. Additionally, here's another key point that I want to drive home for you, though. It doesn't matter how much is needed That's not what's going to determine the price of XRP. When people are buying and selling XRP, I can damn well guarantee you that nobody's sitting there trying to figure out what the current need is in terms of cross-border payments today or what it will be in the future. I mean, some people, okay, fine, they've written up articles and tried to figure that out, but what I'm telling you, the idea that I am positing for you, is that is not why people are buying and selling. Rather, the fact that XRP is being used shows that it has staying power, and that gives investors confidence to buy and hold XRP. That's why I'm doing it. Or is that why you're doing it? Probably, right? You want to see XRP actually being used, but do you care about the actual... It's a fool's errand. To figure out the actual demand at any given moment, it's ridiculous, and then that doesn't account for all the other developers utilizing XRP for other use cases, building on top of the XRP ledger. So fundamentally, it doesn't matter. Because what will happen is, as long as people believe that XRP is being used, you will see a ton of money flow in over time. I believe, this is not financial advice, but I think that you're going to see a lot of institutional players jump in. And I think that if you're an institution and you're investing money on behalf of your members, you're going to want exposure to this asset class for a number of reasons. First of all, there are clear asymmetrical return opportunities, and it's clear that cryptocurrencies are not going away. And it's the more time passes, and the more it's going to be clear that crypto is here to stay. And then in conjunction with real-world adoption of XRP is the reason that people will throw money in. That's the reason it will have staying power. People are not going to freak out of, oh my God, we only need XRP to be so-and-so price in order for it to meet the demands of today for cross-border payments. No, that's not how humans work. That's completely misunderstanding the reason that humans buy and sell. That's not how this works, okay? And it's a fool's errand again, because people can use XRP for whatever they want to use it for. And from day to day, the needs, the demand, it's changing, and it's going to change at a much more rapid pace the more time passes. Okay, moving on. The piece continues. Obviously, this would require Ripple's XRP to develop into a globally adopted investment vehicle, and in my opinion, the fundamentals are incredibly positive for that to become a reality. As for Bitcoin, I do believe that Bitcoin could eventually have a multi-million-dollar valuation. At the current spread of price in XRP/BTC, it's about 0.0000276. So, if that spread was maintained and we have a Bitcoin value of $8 million, XRP would be worth $220. That would require Bitcoin's market cap to be 144 trillion, which is definitely a stretch, but these figures may not come for a decade or more. The global money supply is constantly growing as central banks print trillions and trillions into existence. So, if major crypto adoption is taking place in a decade or so, these multi-trillion-dollar valuations could certainly be a reality. I do agree with that. I think absolutely. A lot of people, they just aren't visionary enough, and they don't understand the scale of what's happening. We're talking about a brand new asset class here. A brand new asset class, okay? People are going to want exposure to this. And then the piece continues. Now, back to Earth. Today, we'll have a more grounded and realistic look at XRP. After all, we're just trying to retake $1, right? So, looking at the daily chart, you can see that XRP is being squeezed between the bottom of a triangle in blue and the falling EMA ribbon. Price is starting to move up into the ribbon after recently holding the bottom of the triangle as support. The black line in the EMA ribbon is the daily 50 EMA. Just above that, I have a green moving average, which is the 200 EMA. So you can see that there is a boatload of resistance above the current price. However, XRP has had several explosive rips higher in the past year, as you can see on the chart. If we get another one of those explosive moves higher, XRP could suddenly find itself above all of that major resistance. In other words, the resistance is very clustered right now, and it wouldn't take much for XRP to break above it all. And I do want to point out, you never know when there's going to be a parabolic run. This is me talking now, not poop got it. I always think back to the most recent example of the real parabolic run up, which is 2017, where it took half a year while Bitcoin was running up from whatever it was, 1,000 all the way up to 20,000. XRP it might as well have been flat for half a year. You don't know when this is going to happen. And I just think that people are behaving differently when it comes to XRP, and I think that has to do with utility, because there's no other coin out there that's actually being adopted for anything. There is no other coin used in the commercial production of anything. So it is being treated differently. All right, and then he closes out the piece by writing, mixed in with all of that EMA resistance is also the most important structure on this chart, which is the top of the blue triangle. That's where the real battle is, and that's right in the middle of that cluster of EMA resistance. So if XRP can get through this tight cluster of resistance, we could see a quick run towards 0.50500, so a little 50 cents. That's what I'm really looking for in the short term, because if that sort of movement plays out, it could complete the right shoulder of a massive inverted head and shoulders pattern on the chart, which is outlined in pink dashes. Obviously, that is yet to be seen. But if XRP can quickly charge above this cluster of resistance, it would greatly increase the probability of XRP printing an inverted head and shoulders pattern. So there you go. And then he writes, $220 is possible, but for now, let's keep our eyes on $1. Fair enough. Okay, reasonable. Like to me, I don't think that what he wrote in particular in this piece is unreasonable. Other than the little caveats I had where I said, okay, I don't agree with this, especially as it pertains to XRP being used by dozens of banks. That's not true. But conceptually, what he's talking about in terms of the potential, I tend to agree with this. It seems like a more level-headed approach, and I agree with him on 220. Just I don't agree on the timeline. I don't think that it would be reasonable to think that the asset class is going to be valued into the tens of trillions in one calendar year. Not the tens of trillions, but you will see run-ups, and it can happen in fairly short order. I do need to acknowledge this, where well, consider in 2017 the market cap for the entire asset class got up to 800 and something billion, and so it did happen quickly over a particular calendar year. But if XRP is up that high, I understand that pretty much all the other coins right now, given that they're tethered to Bitcoin, they would all be moving up in tandem, presumably. And so what that would mean is it's not like the number of XRP being valued at that in the trillions bothers me. It doesn't. I believe that over a long period of time it could hit that. But you'd be talking about, would it be like 100 trillion? Like with all the coins out there, and given that they still are moving in tandem, that's what the data shows, all those coins are still moving in tandem with Bitcoin. I mean, you would probably well be talking in 12 months over 100 trillion. I don't know that that's a realistic outlook. So that's just my particular opinion on it. That being said, as I keep saying, I don't make price predictions. I'm just sharing with you what my gut's telling me here. All right, next piece here. This is from FX Street. Cryptocurrencies price prediction: Bitcoin, Ripple, and Ethereum, and we know they mean XRP. And so there was a piece here. Of course, they always want to frame it in terms of what Bitcoin's doing. They start out with it first. So Bitcoin market update, blah, blah, blah. Pattern propels price past $12,200. States Bitcoin skyrocketed to the new monthly highs during the European session on Tuesday, piercing $12,000 is strikingly impressive for an asset that plunged to lows close to $9,000 last month. The reliable support above $9,000 continues to give Bitcoin price strong legs to sit on. In July, the $9,000 support area tested twice. A formed double bottom pattern gave the bullish momentum a mega boost, first above $10,000 and later $11,000. The tight grip by the bulls saw Bitcoin price step above $11,500, which later saw the price action above the critical $12,000 level. Glancing higher, Bitcoin squeezed through $12,000 for the first time in August. And the only reason that I'm even willing to read stuff like that, I know we're all excited about price right now, or maybe we should say some people in our community are rather concerned. I still believe that we're at the beginning stages of a bull run. That's my personal opinion, not financial advice. And I still think, given what I just said a moment ago about how cryptocurrencies, I believe, are still moving in tandem with Bitcoin until there's evidence to the contrary, which I'll happily report if that happens. It will happen at some point. I'll be happy to report it when that happens. I will gleefully report that. It's just not the case today. And so I'm happy to see these types of reports about Bitcoin, the price, ideally head in the right direction, because I understand what that will mean ultimately for XRP. And so you can see what they're talking about here in terms of XRP. It's a short description. They're just talking about how the price went recently from basically 32.5 cents to 31.74 cents. This type of movement, like the short-term stuff, it doesn't particularly matter. And while I'm happy to report on this stuff, again, I'm always thinking in terms of big picture stuff here. Now, here's a piece from newsbtc.com, and I'll just read the bullet points. I don't want to run through all this here, but of course they titled this piece, XRP struggling while Bitcoin holding key uptrend support. And part of the reason I wanted to cover this, not just because we're talking about price in this video here, but do you ever notice that these pieces, they like to, first of all, put everything in the price-wise of XRP in the context of Bitcoin first? They typically do that, very frequently at least. And they're not doing this like the other coins when they're flat. They're not beating down all the other coins, like the top 10 coins. It's always the pieces, the articles are always about XRP. And I'm willing to bet that there's not going to be nearly as many articles about XRP price when it's going parabolic. There will be pieces, but you see this on pretty much a daily basis. It's like it's intended to put fear, uncertainty, and doubt into the space. So anyway, here's the bullet points. Ripple, they mean XRP, but what the hell? This is from newsbtc.com. Ripple price traded higher recently above the 32.5-cent resistance level against the United States dollar. Price topped near 33.2 cents resistance and recently declined heavily below 32 cents. There is a connecting bullish trend line forming with support near 31.6 cents on the hourly chart of the XRP USD pair. The price could either bounce back above 32 cents or it might extend losses below the 31.5 cent support. Yawn. Don't care. I am a long-term guy. The price gyrations of 1 cent, roughly, that's roughly what this is, of XRP today don't really excite me. Again, I'll talk about price. I'm happy to do it, even though I don't make predictions. But I just think that this is a pittance compared to what XRP will be worth if you fast forward 5 or 10 years. That's what I believe. Because I think that we're going to have adoption globally from more retail speculators and institutionally, which will push the market cap for the asset class into the trillions. That's what I think. All right, here's a piece from A&B Crypto. 100 million XRP moved as Bitcoin surges past $12,000 mark. So here's the whale alert. This is the only part I want to read here. One of the web's major cryptocurrency transaction trackers shared about the news about the transfer of 100 million XRP over its official Twitter handle. Whale Alert tweeted 100 million XRP, which is 31.6 million United States dollars, transferred from unknown wallet to unknown wallet. And that is big. That is a lot. You've been seeing, there have been a ton of reports lately about gigantic transfers. I've reported on 2 additional ones in 2 different videos over it feels like the last several days or so. There's a lot going on here for whatever reasons, even though we don't know whose wallets these are. All right, last piece in this video is from dailyhodl.com. China's softening stance on Bitcoin and crypto, says Circle CEO. In a new interview on CNBC, Jeremy Allaire, co-founder and CEO of Circle, tells host Andrew Ross Sorkin why developments in China indicate that the country's hardline anti-crypto stance is softening. Here's a quote. Recently, a major Chinese court defended that Bitcoin is in fact legal property in China, which was significant. We've seen one of the very largest commercial banks, Bank of China, start to do proactive information marketing about the benefits of Bitcoin, the risks of Bitcoin, but more broadly, its role in the world. All right, and then the piece continues. The Chinese government banned initial coin offerings and most forms of Bitcoin trading in 2017. It has also discouraged Bitcoin mining, driving many mining operations out of business. However, a June report from Xinhua News Agency, which I'm taking as an opportunity to butcher a language that I do not, has many words that I don't know how to pronounce. It's Xinhua, Xinhua, I don't freaking know. Sorry guys, I just don't know. China's state-run press agency stated that Bitcoin displays the attributes of a safe haven asset, signifying a potential change in the government's outlook. Likewise, the Bank of China issued an extensive infographic last month touting the benefits of Bitcoin as a new asset with a limited supply. The marketing material also outlines for beginners how the payment network operates and who powers it. Allaire notes that there is a significant Chinese participation in the Bitcoin market through offshore platforms in jurisdictions such as Singapore, and he describes a macro correlation between recent U.S.-China economic tensions and the increasing price of Bitcoin. And here's a quote from him again. I think the broader thing of Bitcoin specifically, crypto more broadly, participating in these global macro forces is becoming more and more clear. Rising nationalism, rising amounts of currency conflict, trade wars, these are supportive of a non-sovereign, highly secure digital store of value, and that's very clearly been the fundamental thesis for Bitcoin, and it continues to play out. So what do you think, guys? Happy to hear your comments below. That's it for this video. I am not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo!